That's right. Exactly. And I feel a bit weird because I have this mic now. Like I have the bigger voice. But yeah, just come here, sit here, and we'll get like close and cozy. And I have a clicker, but that's just for online and for presentations and stuff like. Yeah, but we need mic for online. But let's see how many people we have. We have here some audience mics. So once we kind of get started, are you joining us for the e-commerce meetup? Come closer, please. Let's huddle together. I didn't realize we're getting the big one. Yeah. Yes. But it's good. Gives a sense of occasion. Finally, e-commerce meetup. Are you joining us for the e-commerce meetup? Yeah, great. Okay, so let's kind of. I think we can just take the mics here because we'll start with the introduction round so everybody can go, and then. Yeah, exactly. You get a chat, and then we have one that we pass around, so you don't have to really run because we're all like together here. Yeah. Okay, flip it on. Can you come closer still, or like? Yeah. Yeah, because we'll be passing around mics, so you're like at the reach of the mic. We can have everyone included, and I think we'll. How many people are there on chat?
6 people so far, so I'll guess they'll drop in as we do it. So maybe we can start.
Okay, so hi everyone. Sorry about the kind of noise here from the room about like organizing and getting us all close. We're sharing a very big room, but I was thinking that there could be a possibility that e-commerce is still quite underrepresented in knowledge graphs. Please come close. Don't sit further away. We'll be sharing a mic, so I want everyone to be able to have the mic at their disposal. Hi, please come and sit here close by. It's a meetup. It's not a presentation. Yes. So for everyone listening to this virtually, we have people coming in. So I'm also welcoming them to come and sit close by. So hi, so that we can really make this into an actual meetup. This is today not a presentation. This is not a workshop. This is a meetup. So the idea is that I want to establish knowledge graphs in e-commerce, or just network with like-minded people who are also working in the e-commerce space or are interested in working in the e-commerce space, and to how Bio has their own symposium. Let's have a little meet up for us in the e-commerce space. My name is Katariina Kari. And I'm currently working as lead ontologist in Inter-IKEA Systems, BV. So we're building together with my colleague Adam, we're building the IKEA knowledge graph. And our main use cases do come from IKEA.com. So we're internally also making things easier and more accessible and transparent with the knowledge graph, but we have some very special e-commerce use cases. And I have an e-commerce background because before IKEA, I worked at Zalando. And Zalando is, you might know, is Europe's biggest e-commerce platform for fashion. So it's not in the US market, it's not in Canada or in North America or anywhere else, nor in Asia. It's just in Europe, but it's quite established there, especially in the German-speaking area and also the Benelux countries, especially the Netherlands and so on. And in Zalando, we were using knowledge graphs as well, and I was part of the team that then built the fashion knowledge graph to understand and to better serve our customers online. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but I would love if we could start with introductions. So we have a mic. Adam has in case someone in the chat is saying something, mic, but I'm going to pass the mic now, and please introduce yourself, like kind of where you're at, what you're doing, and what's your connection to e-commerce, especially to knowledge graphs?
Yeah, so I'm Charlie. I'm a taxonomist at Vinted, which is a European secondhand retailer. We exist in the US, we exist in Canada, but broadly speaking, we're all in Europe. And I'm a taxonomist there, so we don't have a graph yet, but obviously we've worked in that space before. In a previous role, I was at Amazon also as a taxonomist.
And in Amazon e-commerce? Yes. Okay.
My name is Joshua. I'm an SEO analyst at Sourceability, which is a global semiconductor distributor. And I am looking for ways to kind of place myself between search engine indexing, ranking, and traffic requirements and our internal data, which is very big, very unwieldy, and there may be ways to kind of better exploit it for search in particular.
That's really cool. Actually, Adam, I was thinking, would you mind in post-its writing which companies are here? So we have Vinted, and then we have Sourceability. So just give Adam a minute. He'll catch up on yours, but please, in the meantime, John, introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, my name is John. I am a Scrum Master for Collins Aerospace, which is part of Raytheon. We use a knowledge graph for a lot of, because we work with a lot of data as well, so we use knowledge graph for that in multiple applications. Not a particular connection, but I'm just more here for like learning in a way just to see how graphs can be used in different ways.
And your company is
Collins Aerospace.
Collins Airspace. So
Aerospace.
Aerospace. Yeah.
They're part of Raytheon.
Okay. Yeah. Did you, Adam? Yeah.
Hello, hi, I'm Andrea. I'm a co-founder of a startup called WordLift, and we work on the intersection between SEO and knowledge graphs. And our clients are people in the e-commerce space, like the Essilor Luxottica Group, Farfetch, so a little bit of fashion, a little bit of retail, but a lot of other, small and big cases. So we build product knowledge graph, and then we use them to automate SEO.
Yes, so WordLift, and WordLift, your consulting e-commerce company, so that's your connection. Nice.
I'm Beatrice, I'm head of agency at WordLift, so basically I do what Andrea just told, but I also work for Zalando in Berlin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When?
I was in the payment fraud department.
So
nothing related to the web.
But which years?
2016.
Yeah, that's when I started. But I was in the Finnish. It was in the Finnish office, so I wasn't like in Berlin. Yeah. Cool. So WordLift as well. Yeah, but she has a background in Zalando. Cool. Hi, Larry.
Hey, so intro and what? My name is Larry Swanson.
Intro and your connection to e-commerce and knowledge graphs, if there's any. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Larry Swanson. I'm an independent content strategy and content design and other stuff consultant. My most recent gig was at Expedia, working with 60 petabytes of content data and doing a little bit here and there with talking to the folks there who work with knowledge graphs. I've been involved with the KGC for the last few years. I helped organize the content track this year, so everybody should come tomorrow to that.
Yeah. And what's the company that, I mean, not your company, but the company that in e-commerce?
I guess e-commerce, because I've done a lot of stuff. The most recent one would be Expedia.
Expedia, yeah. And yeah, that's Expedia. You got it. Great.
Hi, my name is Matt Weil. I had previously worked at a company called Contentful, which I know IKEA had used from a content management space or perspective. I work at another company called HighGraph, which is also a content management company that's built on GraphQL. I kind of came here really for educational purposes, just to understand the intersection of where content and knowledge graph, but also content and e-commerce. What's that intersection look like? I've worked with a lot of organizations that are e-commerce led, but not as many that are using like a knowledge graph. I think Sephora is one of the only organizations that I've worked with a really detailed. Well, I guess IKEA I had worked with a little bit in the past as well, but I'm interested to learn more about that intersection. Sephora,
the cosmetics company, yeah. Sephora, And Contentful, and then Sephora, because it's also like,
I worked at Contentful for 3.5 years. So
yeah, okay. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Hello, so Ademar, I'm with MetaFacts, just interested in the usage of knowledge graphs for this domain.
Hi, also MetaFact. My name is Tamra, and actually same.
Same here. I guess I don't have to introduce myself to Katariina.
But everyone else online.
Yeah, I'm Irina. I'm also with MetaFacts, and we also have customers in the e-commerce space, which is why we're here.
Exactly. So my name is Kai Preuss, also from MetaFacts, and that's exactly the reason why I'm here, because I want to learn some other use case for other retail customers I do have and get inspired a little bit from.
We missed your introduction. Is that correct? Yeah. And
Do you want to go next?
Okay, sure.
yeah.
Great. My
No
name is
problem.
Laura Horan. I'm also at Vinted. I also previously worked in retail at Amazon. And yeah, like our connection to knowledge graphs it's interesting, like noticing which retailers are using a graph. Like there's definitely there's so many that are using, like they have a very graphy interface. And like we're coming in last summer like to redo how Vinted does their categories. And it's like we want to move towards that, but need to figure out the best path for that flexibility.
Yeah. Categories is my favorite topic in e-commerce. We'll get to it.
I'm Shruti. I'm a data scientist at a Web3 startup called Kaden, which essentially has intakes of like a lot of data that users can connect, and we compensate them for it. So I work with a lot of e-commerce data in that sense. We have like Amazon, their transactions, and I also came from Anheuser-Busch, and their e-commerce startup there. But this is my first time working with knowledge graphs, so don't know much about that space.
And your company, what were you
Kaden.
now? Kaden. Is that with C or?
Yeah, CADN.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What does it do?
No E at the end.
Yeah. What does Kaden do?
Essentially compensates people for their data intake.
Right, that's what you were saying. Yeah.
We anonymize it.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. My name is Prateek, and I'm a data scientist at JP Morgan Chase. At JP Morgan, our specific team looks at customer cross-channel journey information. So a lot of web and app activity, some branch and phone call activity as well. So that's like where the e-commerce connection is coming from, because we're analyzing a very large amount of web and app data, and we would like to use graphs, knowledge or property graphs, to understand like what the customer is trying to do, products, servicing intents, and so on.
Intent, especially to understand the customer intent.
100%. Yeah.
While they're shopping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why are they browsing these pages? What do they actually want to do next? Trying to really understand and be more proactive. Yeah.
Did we catch all your companies? Yeah. Just let us know if we missed something, and we'll have an exercise soon. So I think.
And before that,
Yep.
I don't know,
chat.
organizers, can the participants use their mic to talk to the session?
Yeah, they should be able to hear if you're just. Oh, you mean if they want to?
Okay, well, I'll just read Theodora's introduction. So she works at Ontotext and trying to help build the knowledge graphs out of marketing content. She's a freelancer, content writer, and is involved in KGs and e-commerce because she loves the semantic web and intertextuality. And she wants to learn about change and mindset management when it comes to webbiness. Yes.
Yeah.
Great to have her online as well.
Yes, that's really cool. So we can, you can keep the mic with the audience. We'll just keep it on or keep it off and turn it on later, but we'll be having discussions. And let's get to our first slide. So I actually have three discussion points that I want to get through. So we have something like, we have good time to work on these. And the first first one I would want to work with you together, and Adam can be our script and write the post-its there, is so help him out, speak clearly. And typical use cases in e-commerce that knowledge graphs can solve or are good at solving or are already solving today. Yeah, SEO. So the first one is SEO, and I'm actually interested. What do you think is like? Let's elaborate a little bit on that use case. So what I could imagine is you need to have content on pages. One thing that is quite dominant is you're looking at a product detail page. So product detail page, very e-commerce type of an artifact. And in that product detail page, maybe there can be an article, because in IKEA context, it's a bed. So then it can be an article about good sleep, or a blog post or a link to it, or pictures about in general, like things that people would be looking for, which is meditation or breathing techniques, so you have a better, sounder sleep or something like this, getting into the SEO world of, we're not talking about the bed, but we're talking about things people are Googling, and then it will lead them to these appropriate products. And anything else? And please take the mic so people online can hear you as well. Yeah. Is the mic on?
Okay. Yeah. So in technical SEO, I think that a knowledge graph helps a lot with automating structured data. This is kind of a low level, but it's very important to have an infrastructure that allows you to experiment what type of markup really works for, let's say, the product detail page. So structured data is really the primary use case for which we use a knowledge graph in SEO. Then, another more evolved use case is, of course, to start generating content with the data in the knowledge graph. And so that, can be content generation as another area where we do SEO with the knowledge graph as a backend.
Content generation in terms of like the machine is generating the data, or content strategy highlighting this kind of data we would need to generate, create.
Both can work very well. In terms of indicating what is the intent that that page might serve based on what queries the page is attracting, but also actually generating maybe an introductory text for the page when it's missing. So even getting to the point of creating the actual content that fits into the page. This is very experimental at the moment, but it's working, and it's part of SEO.
So does the knowledge graph then help you to identify the gaps in your content? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You see the gap, and you see also the kind of the area of data that you can use for creating the content.
Okay. And who else here is working with SEO? I know, Larry, you're working with content at least, but SEO as such, you were working on it. Yeah. Oh, there's a. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So you want to. Yeah. Would you like to elaborate on this use case of SEO? Add something to what Andreas was saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. So,
Andrea.
yeah, it's something I'm exploring like actively. I could say one thing that WordLift does in particular, and I learned a lot of my knowledge about the intersection of SEO and knowledge graphs from the WordLift documentation. So we might want to bounce back to Andrea for any kind of like canonical knowledge on this. But one of the things that I appreciate about what a knowledge graph can do is you can link product data. So you could have linked data. So you could have mentions of specific words, entities, and category types linking elsewhere off page to sources which are canonical, which are defined in a knowledge base or a knowledge graph elsewhere, and which can have the effect of like reducing ambiguity in meaning of content, which I think is something that's always valuable with respect to Google. Making sure that your content is well understood for what it is, and specifying relationships to things which have relationships to other things. So even if you can't always create a knowledge graph of your own content on your own page of your own site, you can link things within your content and within your site to knowledge graphs elsewhere. And I think that reducing ambiguity is really helpful, especially because increasingly, like, SEO is increasingly not kind of an old game of just it's only links, it's only page rank, it's only authority and juice and all these disgusting metaphors of just, like push, push, push authority. It's very much about, serving user intents. So you have to be known in the space, but your content also has to like really well approximate what a person is looking for. And having like data that links well from within a search engine, I think can help better establish the meaning of your content and its relevance to a searcher.
So that I understand. So somebody could be also writing this manually and putting the links in. Where is the knowledge graph there? Is it there because we said it's identifying the gaps? Oh, you need a mic, but we can have a second mic for you.
So at the technical level, the knowledge graph, it's the ID of every content piece. So if I have the ID of the product expressed as link data, that makes a tremendous difference, because then I can have the same ID of the product that is referenced on an editorial page.
Yes.
And therefore, the search engine can quickly, see the connection between, that element. And this is also a way of kind of solving the ambiguity problem. Is this that product, or is this that concept that, the brand is kind of presenting to the consumer? And so it's actually the ID, which is a link data URI, which is resolvable inside a graph.
Okay, so it's actually the algorithms would notice these URIs and having them as part of your metadata of your web.
Right. In the beginning, we thought it couldn't work. Or we thought it was, in principle, a good idea, but we didn't have enough data to back it up. And so we had a lot of enthusiasts like Theodora that help us kind of bring forward this mission. But then right now we have enough data that says it works. So exposing the ID and connecting things up the same way you would do it internally in the face of the search engine, it actually helps, because it's like a sat map.
Okay, that's really interesting. So next, what other use cases do we have for e-commerce and knowledge graphs?
Yeah. I was going to say, I worked at a company that we use it for like our legal and checkout. So when you're doing checkout, being able to kind of tie, every country has different rules, jurisdictions, even within the country, they have different rules, and being able to actually, I think 90% of all e-commerce companies are technically doing things illegally because they're not actually following the proper checkout requirements, but legal, I would say, is the big one.
Okay, so legal for checkout at least,
Yeah.
and different countries have different requirements of the information the customer needs to give or consents it needs to do for
that,
checkout.
As well as like for translations, with like what needs to be translated, what doesn't need to be translated as part of the checkout flow. Just all the rules behind that as part of the checkout process.
Yeah.
Every country and every jurisdiction, every state has their own rules too.
Yeah, it's probably a European problem as well. I could imagine.
Yeah, I think they said I think it's like 98. If in this country, if they did an audit, they would have to shut down like 98% of websites because they're operating illegally.
Wondering if Zalando ever had different checkouts. I mean, it was managing the markets differently. Yeah, and I wonder we need to see how it's in IKEA or like IKEA.com. But that's a very interesting. I didn't actually think about that, or I haven't thought of it before. Thank you. And so I think that's quite a clear one. I mean, SEO needed a bit more elaboration, but this is quite clear one because it's just you need the market specific regulation, and then you generate the user experience accordingly to the market. So it's kind of clear. Larry, you had something. No?
This is more of a dream. I mean, it's not a total dream, but it's like a thing I've actually explored in large enterprise settings. But content personalization at scale, having and the knowledge graph is the mechanism that permits you to implement a metadata strategy that connects user intent, very much like SEO. But in this case with content that has a purpose, so purposeful content, and so matching and doing integrating information from DXPs and CRMs and all this customer information on one side, and then having a tagging and metadata strategy on the content side that permits you to make those connections. And the knowledge graph is, like, to my mind, the best, it's not the only way you could do it. There's other ways people have done it, but it's like a really good way, I think, to
So when you say content personalization, what is that user experience like? Is it like I entered the e-commerce page, I'm logged in, so there's maybe like some information about me, and then because I read yesterday that article on the meditation breathing technique for better sleep, I'm now seeing the next article in that series, for example.
That's one. Yeah.
Where's the other mic?
Yesterday, I don't know if someone participated, but there was a workshop from Weave8 where they show how they use the centroid of a vector for a product, and multiple products you interact with will create your personas. So we are the product. We actually are the centroid of the embeddings of multiple products, and therefore personalization, it's done starting from the characteristic of a product, which are defined inside a graph, because it's not just the vector, but how do you build the vector? Where does the vectors come from? It comes from a graph in most cases.
Okay. Yeah. And also, like, I think, please just wait for the mic. So for the
sorry, to Larry's point, and I'm kind of more on the content side as well, is that your end user that might be interacting with that e-commerce experience, the person in their 60s and 70s might be different than the person who are 15, 20 years old. So the way that immersive experience might be more important to that one person than it might be to another person. Showing them a video of something of like, oh, here's a TikTok video of someone like an influencer wearing that hat might be more important than here's just the hat. Like here's just an image of the hat. So I think having that context is really important. I think in to Larry's point, for someone who's in the content world, I think that the knowledge graph is really, really important in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of elaborate on that just a little bit, it's like that's why I think of it as a metadata strategy implementation tool, because all those things, you have all kinds of stuff, that behavioral data, if they're logged in, all that history that you have in your own system, just psychographic, demographic, there's all kinds of different kinds of stuff, which is where your C level in the graph is so important. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can categorize about both the your customers and the content you have. So it's part of, and that's one of the generic benefits of knowledge graphs is you don't know what you don't know, and maybe you can figure it out. So.
Yeah. Anyone else who wants to elaborate on this content personalization? It's like one aspect of content. We had others as well. SEO was okay. So, any other use cases you can think of for e-commerce? Yes, please, Laura. And
so like we work in categories, so like managing the relationship between categories and attributes. So things like pants like have a waist height, right? Or like which shape is the leg? What material is it made of? How do all those materials relate to each other? So like I see that as a major.
Yes. So this would be, is it categories? Because then you could have like, there's so many dresses sold in Zalando, for example. And one of the big things was, how can we introduce granularity to these? Some are like dresses according to occasion. Others are dresses according to weather. And then there's dresses according to events. So that's like a specialized of occasion. And then there's dresses according to material as well, because you would be interested in like the wool ones or the silk gowns or something like that, and satin gowns and so on. So categories is one thing. Categories is kind of a lumping together for the convenience of a customer. There could be personalization in categories. I told that categories is my favorite topic. I burned for this. But what you're talking about is more like characteristics of products according to maybe their shape or type. So here it's a different, like you could be selling jewelry and this waist measure doesn't matter,
right? It's
except if it's a belt. Except if it's
or like with the dress example, like I might do a search for garden party dress, right? And like what am I actually looking for? Or like it's a summer dress. It's like a light, maybe certain colors. Maybe it's a floral motif. Maybe it's like a lighter material than like say wool. I think there's it's simplistic.
And also in IKEA, it's like if we need to. one thing, use case is which ones are the same products or similar products. So when it comes to sofas, there the attributes that matter is number of seats. But when it comes to a lamp, number of seats doesn't matter. So is this what we're talking with the appropriate attributes?
Right. Well, because number of seats wouldn't be mapped to lamps, right? It matters for chairs, it matters for sofas and cars or whatever, right? But like
and
not
dining tables.
yeah.
And
yeah. And just to jump in on that one, yeah, we have this situation at IKEA as well, is we treat all the products the same way, right? A bulb has a product, has a title, and has attributes, while sofa, again, is treated the same way. So I think that here is a really good use case to say things are different, they have different attributes, and let's not cram everything into the entity of measurements, for example. Squeeze everything in there, but treat them for what they are. They're not just products, but different things.
So how do you handle that though? Like, if they're not products, how do you, or if they are all, they're not categories, but you said they're all products, how do you distinguish the type of product?
Yeah, so I mean, there are ways to solve this in knowledge graph. So it's a classic application of class. So you have the product classification, and then they have their own structure according to what attributes you need. So if you need these, let's say with seating furniture, you put a hierarchy in there where you say that when it comes to chairs, the number of seats is not an attribute, but when it comes to sofas, number of seats is an attribute. But for both, the height of the seat height is an attribute, and so on. So you just map out these attributes, and basically you can you could do your ontology. It's an ontology modeling because it's a class hierarchy. You could do it the other way around. You could just basically say what are all the attributes that are important for these, and do like a you don't need to name your clusters. These are the things that have the same important attributes, and then it's your clusters, and then you give them a name. You could work it like that, and it calculates the hierarchy from it as well, because the whole idea with a class hierarchy is that it always inherits the attributes. So if you have some who share the hierarchy, most likely they are inheriting, but then you still need a human to look at it. So there's like strategies in which you can create them, but basically the ontology class will solve this one. But I think we need a nice name for it, type specific categories, but I would say more like managing attributes, like attribute management.
Right, because like a category is an attribute effectively.
That's what I was going to say, is like attribute-based content modeling was a huge part of my last job. And and among those attributes can be other metadata. So like a place I know about does a lot of machine learning enrichment of media assets like pictures and text. That gives you more attributes. This is another place. It's more just like I don't know that knowledge. I actually know that they are thinking about it, but whether they're using knowledge graphs as part of that categorization, but that media enrichment that then kind of adds more attributes that you can match with customer affinities, and there you go.
Yep. Okay. Any other use cases? I was like so afraid that there's like nobody giving use cases that I prepared, but there's no need for those necessarily. But I could pull something from the pre-prepared ones, so just to kind of add. Wait, I need to look, and you'll see. Oh, you put something in there. Okay, Adam, go. Yes, so, but that's, I would love to talk about contextual recommendations, because we've talked so much about content. So, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow. So contextual recommendations, I see, is one of the use cases for e-commerce and knowledge graphs, because when we see recommendations, usually we making use of wisdom of crowd, and there's low explainability, except somebody who looked at this also looked at these products. But that doesn't really give you more, and it doesn't give you the feeling that you have in actual brick and mortar stores, in physical stores, where you're talking to an expert who actually knows something about the furniture or knows something about the dresses, and we're like, oh, you're looking at this, oh, did you know that we actually have these now on sale? I think it's a good deal and so on, which that's the kind of service you really appreciate as a consumer, and how to translate that then in the e-commerce space. So contextual recommendations is when you can say, oh, it looks like you're looking at a bed or a mattress. We have these really nice bed linens here, and some you have a firm mattress there. So also here are some like firm pillows that you might enjoy, and then there's content about pillow ergonomics, right? And so that's the contextual recommendation, is to, from the attributes and from what the context is, pick up those things, and then in the graph move to the products that are in that same context. Another one was in Zalando, we looked at blazers, and then my team went live with contextual recommendations of other clothing that are really good for business. So it did even like a hop, not like other blazers or trousers that suit the blazer, but this is business. This must be business, or I'm guessing that they might be interested in business attire. So I'm going to recommend other business attire, which goes a little bit further.
And I'm looking at the chat here, and Theodora, she has maybe something related to this. She says content recommendation doesn't need to be intrusive and steal your data. A knowledge graph would allow you to self-identify, and personalization can mean just allowing the user to follow their nose as opposed to following your pitches.
Interesting. So then we should pull up ethical personalization there then next, because yes, exactly. So the other use case is ethical personalization, which is, we've been having this discussion. Is it basically allowing, first of all, it's you don't have to be creepy and know stuff about the customer. You can have a cookieless session even, and you just allow them to in a way customize their view. So you could from the knowledge graph drive questions of what's your budget, are you looking for inspiration, are you home improving, and if you have context to guess from, or a browsing history, click history, then you could already make some assumptions. But those assumptions, because they're based on the knowledge graph and they have I-write, they have a label, so you can put them at front, and you can be ethical and transparent about it. And because you're using a knowledge graph, you're like, because of this clicking data, I am assuming this now about you, so you're super transparent. Yeah, where's the mic? There's the mic.
In the contextual recommendation, do you take into account the user, or you just look at the graph structure? I mean, what is kind of the line between the user data and the taxonomy?
Yeah, so the contextual recommendation at Zalando, it was using the context, which was completely based on the product attributes, so the blazer and so on, but then it ordered it according to personalization. So usually a hybrid approach is used. The recommendation itself was a wisdom of the crowd, typical wisdom of the crowd, maybe with the customer preferences in there, as in like previous brands bought.
Right.
But then it took the ones that the context said were good and put those up high.
Right.
So a hybrid approach.
It's kind of a blend. I think in SEO we usually look at the amount of clicks, which is kind of a third type of source. Is how the content has been seen by the search engine without taking into account the user. So we look at the graph, and then we look at the opportunity in terms of clicks from Google, and then we kind of re-rank it that way.
Yes, and Josh, you wanted to,
Can I ask
please.
a cross-chat question to Andrea on the SEO point of view?
Yeah. Okay.
Something I'm really curious about in general when it comes to content personalization and using knowledge graphs for content personalization is how do you think that will affect SEO? Because I think that when SEOs design or like advocate for recommendation in a specific way, they advocate for it on behalf of like this third party Google, which groups things in a certain way, and you want to just try and topically organize pages together, but you want to make sure that you're pushing links from important pages to other important and relevant pages, whereas personalization can potentially switch up the links a lot of the time, which is maybe a strange experience for Google that it's so dynamic. It can be. And then B, also, like, what if that doesn't map maybe to what a search engine's expectation of how things are related?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the idea of the graph is that you have this structure that contains the hierarchy of the products and, all the categories, the attributes that you have for the product. So you have to start there, right? Because that's kind of the starting point, because you cannot match, let's say, I don't know, a table with an umbrella, or maybe you can, but I mean, most probably you cannot. So you have to have something that it's solid where you're starting from. And then, when you re-rank, or when you start, really matching and getting closer to the interface, then of course I apply my SEO goals. And the SEO goals, as you mentioned, yes, they can be biased. They are biased because I look at, the opportunity in terms of clicks. And what we expect to see is, of course, that we get more focus on these category pages, which means that we start to see less traffic on other pages and more traffic for that search intent on fewer pages. And this is also valuable for the user experience in a way, because then, end of the story, we start killing a lot of pages that shouldn't be there, that have been created for, following an opportunities of the moment, which was about, I don't know, the relationship between meditation and that sofa, but that no longer exists. There's no demand for it. And so the fact that we use a third party, it's also a way of pruning, this category system that sometimes kind of grows too much.
Yeah, thank you. I thought that was a really interesting perspective. The third party as Google is kind of like a
bad.
QA assistant.
It's not as bad, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as we used to think of it.
Sorry.
One quick follow on to that is, like, Google has been saying for 15 or 20 years that the user experience is what really matters. They've never actually done that, but they say it, and this could be like, that could be a triangulation point, to figure out. But what I wanted to say, as soon as Adam wrote down ethical personalization, I was thinking, and when Theodoros asked that question, I had a conversation with Ashley Faith a while back about personal knowledge graphs and their application in enterprises, because I was thinking about, like, boring stuff like who knows how to do what in this organization. She thinks her top use case for a personal knowledge graph is in content personalization, or in personalized experiences, and in sort of like almost a gamified way, like, hey, we infer this from what you've done about what you like to do. Can you tell us a little bit more so we can give you a little bit better information? So this sort of kind of like SEO and that ever escalating thing, but it's not a battle. It's like a win-win. So anyhow,
yes, personal knowledge graphs for sure, for this personalization in terms of this is what we know about you, like being super transparent if you want to be ethical. So you're saying we're collecting this click data, and we see that you looked at cribs, but you're not looking at them anymore. Should we forget about this? And that's a very nice thing. That would be beautiful. And being, that polite, non-creepy servant of this person, making the life choices. Polite, like, like, imagine you walk into the store and there's this person's like, yeah, like, how's the kid at home, and like, you painted it white yesterday, isn't it? Like, how creepy. Like, we don't want that in the e-commerce.
Yeah, you mentioned about getting click data and like adding that on to the attribute knowledge graph. So would you consider creating a graph out of click data as well, or do you think it'll be a relational data source and you'll add on to it in some ways, like merge a knowledge graph, insights from a knowledge graph and a relational graph, or a relational data more downstream in the process?
I mean, to be frank, we're building a product data graph. So, but the reality is that the company holds the product data in relational databases. That's reality. They are in the relational databases. Then we transform them, have them in a knowledge graph, because then we can do more with it. And all the references to materials, for example, and these attribute values, we have specialized attribute values that are reoccurring and have actually inside the knowledge graph a huge page rank. So if you have material, wood, for example, or wool, and they have a huge page rank because a lot of products are made out of wool into fashion, or in IKEA, a lot of products are made out of wood. So those specialized, I call them like there's special instances, and they are the category level. I have this blog post that I wrote about the 3 levels of the knowledge graph in IKEA, and it's referring to Dave McComb's also idea of that you have the ontology definition, the class definition that defines what kind of attributes should be there for what are important for the sofa, which ones are important for the dress. And then you have the instances, but the instances are divided to 2: the special instances with the high page rank. So and you could hold them in a taxonomy. You could have a taxonomy of materials and so on. And then you have the other data, which is the data graph, which is just everything in its connected form, plus all the textual information of the title of the product and so on. So that's and that graph form for products is useful because you can power all these use cases from that. But the reality is you probably have to manage two things at the same time. So the knowledge graph is just a reflection of what is there. And Brave are the ones who then move completely to a graph database for their products. We want to also get there at some point. Yeah. I'm looking at the time. I really, this is the main question. We have 2 more, but I want to spend one more time, just pull up one more use case, and that's search. So this is not now SEO, but this is search, and especially internal search. So this is internal search, and we have my favorite example. When I started with the 2016 with the Zalando knowledge graph, we had people in analytics scratching their heads because they were like, why are suddenly all customers typing in Beyonce into this internal search? Like suddenly it just popped up. Everybody's writing Beyonce in there. Why? Any guesses? Well, 2016, 17 is when an ad, but she launched her own brand for I think Adidas, which was Ivy Park. And nobody remembered the name Ivy Park, but that's what the data said. Our product, the product data on the product said the brand is Ivy Park. But nowhere was there the connection between Beyonce and Ivy Park. But the customer's mind isn't such that they would remember this new brand called Ivy Park. I was also like, why is it called Park and Ivy, like Ivy League and the park in New York? I have no idea. Central Park, why? And I would be like, I wouldn't remember that, but I would for sure remember Beyonce, like that brand by Beyonce. That's how customers think. So my favorite use case in internal search is customers use a different language. They have a different mental model of what they want to buy, and it's not necessarily reflected in product data, because product data is curated by buyers and category specialists. So like the people who are already very much inside fashion or very much inside interior design and product design, they have their own language, and they're like, of course I know Ivy Park, and they're even proud about not being the dumb layman or and so on. So there's a mismatch between customer language and internal language, internal jargon even. And the knowledge graph is really great for that, because in the end it's a interoperability problem. It's just about mapping 2 systems with each other. So here in this case, mapping Beyonce to that. And I think in terms of like furniture, we have not even gone into, we have quite a lot of different use cases. We're especially working with contextual recommendations currently. We haven't gone into search, but we all the time know is like, we just need to get that Google Analytics sheet up, look at the low performing ones, and then start taking those off and be like, that name, let's map it to that product attribute value. Yes, please continue.
I know that at IKEA you have a lot of products that have different functions. I mean, they have they can be used the same product for different uses. Do you manage that into your knowledge graphs?
You mean that you can use one product for different things?
Yeah.
And also maybe all the things that you do with IKEA hacks, that you take the bread thing and you make it into a nightstand. Yes. Yes, yes. So currently we have an intended use, and we know a little bit about this intended use, and all our to make sure that the products are safe. Those efforts go into the intended use. So if customers are using them differently than intended, we wouldn't want to be liable for it. If somebody, you know, is standing on something that is never meant to be for standing, then we can't be responsible for it. So, but we're not. Adam, if you want to comment more on what we're doing?
We are
with
not
it.
there yet. So the way we kind of work, for example, with sofa beds or bed sofas, I never know how you say it in the States. Sofa bed. Okay. That they have two uses. One is for socializing, relaxing. Another one is for sleeping. And unfortunately, right now, the way we do it is that, well, when you look into the navigation, you trying to fit it in both places, and not to kind of, I don't want you to go to the website and find all of these, but if you click on one of them, the breadcrumb will only point you to one location. Yeah. So this is, again, something that we would love to do with the knowledge graph. We're looking into that with our partners, is that can we essentially associate a product category with let's say an activity that people do at home instead, and have that be the source. Then it doesn't matter if it's this individual sofa bed or that one. The conceptual idea of a sofa bed is that it can cater for different uses. So this is something that, yeah, we would like to work on, but we're not really there yet.
What about the internal search? I mean, what is the biggest use case right now for IKEA and the knowledge graph on the internal search?
Well, like I said, we haven't gotten there yet. So we're just like one step short of looking at the Google Analytics report.
Okay.
And it's basically, you just look at the no-hit ones and the low-performing ones. If your analytics have prepared a, low click-through rates, not engaging with the search result metric, and then you analyze those and you just start taking off. It's. I remember in Zalando we were doing it, and it was a 7-figure sum that we saved in just 2 months of work, and it's keeps on churning the results, because if you don't base it on the products as such, you don't add to every product that's from Ivy Park Beyonce in there, but instead what you do is you do it through these business rules of this, like when it's this attribute, do it that. And so if your product catalog renews itself like it does 4 times in a year at IKEA, you still, after years of implementing the rule, it will still keep on producing the results. Okay, so I'm really happy with Larry. Some closing remarks, last remarks for the use case.
No, one quick thing about what you were just saying about that mismatch in language between, any number of users of a search system. Jerry McGovern, like 15 years ago, was talking about customer care words. And I just Googled it. He's apparently trying to suppress that, but it's still a great concept that this notion of like, the user searching for cheap flights, but you would never use that on your website. You would say budget travel or something like that. And so, and he had a lot of, I can't find his book or anything now about it, but he had a lot of good stuff to say about that. So that's worth digging into. But just that concept of being aware of that, and to what Adam was saying, or you were saying both about, different, because I'm also an information architect. And I think 20 years ago, I got rid of the idea of hierarchical organization of anything, because we're in this pre-Copernican world where any destination you're at on the web is the center of the universe. And this just happens to be about, great, I came here curious about sleeping, so I got this sofa bed. I came here curious about relaxation, and I ended up at this sofa bed. So, and I think it's solvable.
Yeah, you actually reminded me of one more aspect about this internal search, which is your buyers are your friends. So it's not today being picked up by Google Analytics. For example, I think it was 2017 for the summer, off the shoulder was a big thing. And there was this fashion specialist telling the data science team, off the shoulder is going to be a big thing. She was saying this in the spring. And they're looking at the data, it's like, no, it's not. we don't see it in the data. Nobody online is Googling for off the shoulder. But what they didn't realize is fashion is a very top-down industry. Trends are not emerging. It looks like they're emerging, but they're not. They are handed down top-down. They're determined. There's a meeting somewhere where they're deciding what the next big thing is going to be. Yes, and so she just knew it because she was in the fashion industry. She knew that off the shoulder is a big thing, and it was a small thing for the knowledge graph to then connect off the shoulder with the product attribute that they were using, which was asymmetric shirts. Because there wasn't an off the shoulder. Off the shoulder was like a very small detail, but then the knowledge graph could, before it was visible in the data for the data scientists who always look at things in the past, it could already be there to make sure that once we are pushing the off the shoulder to the customers, they're also coming back to find it. And so that's, yeah. Okay, so I would want to take you to the next question. No? Yeah. There we go. So what are the known e-commerce sites that are using knowledge graph? We mentioned this before. And so let's get the list up, and maybe you can just draw up my post-its, because the pre-prepared ones. Yeah, just bring them up, and then let's see if we have. I think Etsy is using knowledge graphs. Yes, it is very graphic. Look, I'm suspecting it, but I actually don't have any proof. Oh, sorry. Just for the people online. Charlie said that
before that they had a lot of ontologists there, so you can infer that they were doing something with those ontologies.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Larry. Yeah. And then, well, I know that Amazon has hired a bunch of ontologists a few years ago, so I'm also assuming they're using that. I know Zalando has one, and we're slowly getting there. We're A/B testing, so we could maybe put ourselves there, but at least we are hiring and have hired ontologists. So, anything else? But let's get some names up here at least. I mean, some Ray-Ban. Okay, cool. Farfetch. Yes, to some extent. I think it's a very data science approach to knowledge. Get a. So the people, our friends online.
So in Farfetch, we were working a lot on the SEO front, and we are allowed to use the fashion taxonomy, which is in a way is a form of graph that it's used for the internal search, for example, and some of the taxonomies. And now we're using it for a couple of use cases in the SEO. So I think they deserve to be there.
Yeah, and it's not a hall of fame of e-commerce for knowledge graph, but it's just useful names for e-commerce, or useful points of connecting and building the community, our community of e-commerce knowledge graph people. Anyone else? Should we print it up? Not yet. Next year. Yes, next year.
I've heard REI has one. So REI is a sporting goods company in the US.
REI.
Exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Bosch. Cool.
Bosch for electronic home appliance. Power tools. Bosch for power tools.
Okay. Interesting. I've spent some time on the Nordstrom website, and that is also very they don't have a hierarchy anymore. It's you don't have a breadcrumb, so that feels extremely graphy to me.
Nordstrom.
Yeah.
It's
a North American brand.
Yes. Nordstrom. And anyone else?
Michael Eschel and Mike Doan are all in Seattle and hang out at Nordstrom. That's probably
Yeah.
It's a strong guy.
Any other names?
Theodora mentions Best Buy.
Best Buy.
We're using schema.org. Pioneers in that.
Oh, do you want to get a mic? Yeah. So about Best Buy.
Best Buy has been doing a lot of the work on the initial, translation from good relation to schema, and definitely They of course, Electronic Arts, which is a very large brand, but it does a lot of e-commerce also for in-app purchases, can be part of the knowledge
That's
graph.
true.
AA it's much more than an e-commerce.
I remember talking to Aaron Bradley,
yeah,
about Electronic
exactly.
Arts, that they were for the gamers who are inside the app using certain artifacts. They have that knowledge graph for those artifacts so that they can push the sales better, and more accurately.
I mean, it's not a real e-commerce use case as we're used to think of.
It's a metaverse.
It's a digital metaverse.
Yeah, it's a metaverse e-commerce case.
Yeah.
Please take the mic. So
I mean, I'm a gamer, so I kind of like keep eye on that stuff. So it's like EA and Activisions are like kind of like the biggest people in that space of like microtransactions and in-app purchases. So I mean, they make billions of those per year. So I figured they're probably like key players in that field.
Yes. Please take the mic, sir.
It for like big companies, international companies, a lot of is also local. I mean, a lot. Some countries may not have the knowledge graph. For example, Bosch doesn't have it for all their countries. Some are not there yet. So it depends on how they manage their catalogs and their products.
Not all countries are the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Some countries are more advanced. As you said, I mean, people build a knowledge graph from an existing, data source, and some countries would do it, other countries would not. I mean, this is at least for our experience. They are not everyone enlightened like IKEA that say, okay, centrally we do it. I mean, sometimes it's like someone that starts in a narrow.
Start something smart. Yeah, please.
Sometimes they want to test in some countries as a use case, as a proof. And then they might, run it to other countries.
Yes,
that's another use case.
Kari, please take the mic.
I'm just curious where you draw the line between like media and publishing, because like Spotify must have a knowledge graph. But like the BBC and other media companies do for sure, but they're not really e-commerce. They're definitely publishers. But like that middle, there's that kind of EA is, that's what made me think of as EA is.
I mean, we can definitely put Spotify in there, even though it's there's like you're not actually buying single things. You are on a what's it called, the what's the word? Now I lost it. Subscription. Paying for a subscription. Okay, but so it seems that it's a lot of like and the one sometimes I also talk about that I'm like in the e-commerce space, but in the lifestyle e-commerce, because home and interior design, home is very much about lifestyle. It's a necessity as well, but also lifestyle. And Zalando, definitely fashion is part of lifestyle. So if we maybe, I guess I'm moving to the next. No, I want not. But if we would group these now as like proper data therapy on this this one, how would we like? We can at least take Etsy, Zalando, and IKEA for a Nordstrom for lifestyle, right? Or no, Nordstrom that's a fashion.
It's a department store.
The department store. Okay, so we would take that at least to the lifestyle cluster. Outdoor and gear, REI, yes. Sorry.
REI is very similar to Decathlon.
Yeah.
Like IKEA and REI came together.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then we have, I guess, Ray-Ban is lifestyle as well. Then we Amazon. It's like everything, and
It's like a
and it's like a platform as well, which is interesting. So I had last year, that's why I organized this meetup, because last year I had a very nice discussion with someone from Amazon. Were you in Amazon before? No, who was it? You were in Amazon before, so yeah. No. Yeah, Heather Moore. So I had a nice discussion with Heather Moore, and I was like saying, hey, e-commerce is really underrepresented. And she said, well, but there's still differences inside e-commerce. So we at Amazon, we have the problem that we don't know much about the products, but you at IKEA must know so much about your products because we hold the entire value chain in our hands. It's from the idea of the product, but we also know all the materials because we're also owning our sources and so on. So it's very different for IKEA at least to create the e-commerce experience because we have so much knowledge and we know why this product exists. There was a certain problem that product came to solve, so we can even add that. But Amazon doesn't have that. It's a zero margin business, so it's completely different how it would solve its problems. So then I wonder, Bosch appliances. Or Walmart. Walmart using knowledge graphs?
Yeah.
I
just Googled Walmart.
No,
but
okay, so Larry added Walmart there, Googled it, and so I wonder, do we see more clusters here? We have the appliances for Bosch. Farfetch should be in lifestyle still. Best Buy, is that like everything like is electronics? So appliances and yeah, Bosch is in appliances, right? Yeah.
Farfetch is like secondhand stuff too, right?
Farfetch has secondhand, Zalando has secondhand, and IKEA has secondhand as well.
But it's
Yeah.
Farfetch, like, are the users generating the secondhand, or is they?
Well, no.
If you want to take the mics, please take the mic so that people in the chat can hear. Yeah, so the question was that this is interesting, like secondhand user-created information. So your product data comes back in like a new form. Is the user entering the product data? Are you recognizing? Farfetch,
I think
IKEA could have the capability of recognizing its products because those always been IKEA products, but Farfetch not necessarily because it could be a vintage brand that they're not longer presenting.
A gatekeeper, I would say, because they source the product from the boutiques. I mean, the original business model. Then, of course, they are more of a marketplace. You know, in a way, they also propose themselves now as a platform, if you want, because they're also buying. Ukes and other brands because they see themselves more as a platform. So, which means that they are more into the problem of Amazon of not knowing the product that they actually sell.
That's true. And Zalando is actually a platform as well. It's more and more, less and less producing its own brands and going down on it.
Mention platform as, you know, kind of an area where there is less knowledge of the specific product because there's less control on the value chain. Then I think it's a good distinction.
Etsy
is the same.
Etsy is a platform as well. Yeah. So maybe this is actually much more interesting than knowing the area. So instead of like owning the product and platform,
it's about the metadata. You control how you source it. You know, you aggregate it from other sources, or you own it because you know what you're talking about. Yeah. And that's I think clear.
So Spotify is then also, we would put it under platform because Spotify really is in the record label.
No, they do create a lot of stuff, a lot of fake songs in order to, you know, save on IP cost. It's crazy, but they do. Yeah, they have a lot of AI created songs that resonate just the same as the one that you want to listen to, but they will not pay the rights to the original holder. It's pretty nasty stuff, but it exists.
I mean, I think with their podcast as well, I mean, that'll be considered, I mean, granted, it's kind of like a user-generated content. That'll still be like a platform for them.
Yes. Okay, it's user-generated, but that means that there's no record label there to make sure they get money for it, or?
Well, I mean, the users are the one that'll be. I'm not sure how they are calculating like how much the creator gets, like the creator of the podcast and everything get. But I mean, I would assume they've kind of like negotiated that way beforehand. Yeah. Like for example, Joe Rogan, like he's the one that's getting paid like millions for his podcast.
Yes, that
and,
one.
Like, other people as well. So yeah.
So and I guess then we have the gaming side, which we could just say it's a multiverse e-commerce. So that, but it's like very then the use cases probably will differ a little bit as we have these different groups, and maybe we can find some more as more and more companies are identified of being, what's it called, knowledge graphs averse, making use of knowledge graphs. Okay, and then checking the time, we're good on time, so let's take us to the last question. Let's nerd out on knowledge graphs. And what do this could be empty. I didn't think of any. Yeah, I thought only of one. But what ontologies are used in the e-commerce space or reused? So known ontologies.
GS1.
GS1, yes, for product categorization.
Yep.
Yes.
Schema.
Schema.org.
Yeah.
And schema.org I find is actually interesting. Do people do their own extensions to schema.org, or do they just reuse the information there exists for product? Because last time I looked at schema.org, it kind of ends at product. So there's nothing underneath, and then I guess you would use GS1 to get more granularity on what product.
I mean, schema is very different in the way in which it kind of grows, but there are extensions to some extent. For example, we have contributed to the extension of schema for the ski resorts, which is a new subset of the local business. So you can extend it, but it's quite rare, and therefore what happens is that you will create your own extension and run it on your own ontology that reference schema. Yes. Which is what we do, for example, for the Ray-Ban use case and the other eyewear
yes,
brands.
So where's the next interior designer extension for schema.org, or where's the fashion and extension for schema.org? I was actually talking about it a lot already back at Zalando, and well, we're with Adam, we're like, maybe we'll get there. We definitely want to get there, but what is the interest? What is in it? What is it in it for the companies to then publish the extension?
Well, there is a tremendous value in making sure that all your partners use the same names, because especially when you move into the platform kind of space, the problem is, how do we call things? And then it is true that I can have my own, vocabulary or ontology, but if I push it to schema, then there is a better chance of reuse. Problem is that the way in which schema is managed is still tremendously biased by Google and search engine, but primarily Google. And in the most of cases, that's pretty stupid, because it limits the usage or the reusage of the language. And so, yeah, it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. We don't have a solution for that at the moment.
Okay. And,
but I always advise client to push an extension of schema.
Yeah. So while Larry is getting his mic, Andrea, I just have this question, just a kind of particularity, is that if you create an extension, you are still using the schema.org namespace.
You do, yes.
You do.
I mean, even though it might not go published in the in the main version of it, you can still run it under the main namespace, because there is a space for extension that might not fit into the vocabulary that gets published.
And is there a place to list your extension, like a marketplace for extensions?
Well, unfortunately, it's not that evolved, but it's on GitHub, and unfortunately, it goes through a process which is a little bit opaque, I have to be honest, because it's primarily governed by Google. And so I wish there would be more contribution and extension. But we also don't do enough, possibly, as WordLift. I mean, Yoast is more active than us on schema these days, for example.
Okay.
And, I think everyone should be more active. If you get more active on schema, you will get the extension for IKEA.
Yes. Okay. All right.
I was just going to say two things you said, Andrea, about that opacity, about practically like how Google owns that whole thing, but also Amazon being like commerce. They want to own commerce, all of it, and they have 80 ontologists. That's probably, that's probably a fantastic upper ontology for commerce that we'll never see.
Well, yes and no, though, because Amazon, yes, I mean, the ontology you'll never see, but the access to the product data, it's quite direct, and they have a very effective API to let anyone do what I would envision schema to do for others, which is like letting partners talk about the same product and the same attributes using the same language. So they kind of, they are very opaque on how things are structured, but then you can access the product data in a super simple way.
And also, there's also, like, in the EU, there's development of, it's an EU project called Onto Commons, and under that they have developed materials ontologies. Actually can't remember that one, but I just remembered looking at GS1, there's that is, I looked at it and it looked quite impressive and very promising. But I would draw up here one, which is what you use to describe your taxonomy, is probably SCOS. So SCOS is something we are at least using for defining the taxonomies that is part of the e-commerce work. I mean, ontologies as well, custom ontologies, or we're using others, but SCOS for taxonomy definition. You're using SCOS for taxonomies? What are you using for taxonomies, actually? Let's get you a mic. Yeah.
Charlie, feel free to jump in. So we like just have entered into like a relational database that was, it was just like a category structure with a couple of attributes. So yeah.
Our taxonomy model is inherited, and it's 14 years of us, of engineers building a taxonomy that they thought saw fit, which really doesn't work.
I can see I've seen those. I can see what it looks like. I can,
if
I
you
can
know,
imagine.
you know. Right?
I can imagine. Yeah. So, any other ontologies or things? I really like the comment about the one that we will never see, and this contribution to open.
Well, no, one thing
data,
I'm DMing Matthias right now to see. He'll probably know the name of that upper ontology for the EU material stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and there's a lot of that stuff. That's a lot of us here are like semantic web fans and linked open data and all that. And that's just, I think there's 10x amount of activity inside walled gardens of semantic stuff that will, anyhow, I don't know. I'm not going to go on a lifelong quest to unleash it, but it'd be fun to see what's going on.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Well, that was my last question. I'm happy to discuss other stuff further. I think that's all from the chat as well. Yeah. So thanks so much for this. That's Swedish for thank you. Also another, the second language in Finland, so appropriate for me as well. And yeah, Adam and I were going to be here in KGC. I'll be talking about how we're doing the recommendations, contextual recommendations tomorrow, and then Adam is going to talk about how we're getting, how we're doing the kind of behind the scenes that drives those recommendations, which is getting domain experts to tell the rules actually, so that we can bring this interior designer knowledge online into our e-commerce space. So thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure. I'm so happy so many joined, and we had a cozy meetup, right? And maybe we can continue this also in a year in KGC, right? Yeah, let's keep on doing. Then let's have you up there next time, yeah? Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.